In basketball, one of the toughest opponents players face never steps foot on the court. Expectations. Every player battles with it, whether you're a star player trying to carry your team or the last guy on the bench trying to fight to stay on the roster. Expectations never stop testing you. The higher they are, the tougher the battle is. You either overcome them or fall short. And if you fall, the only way forward is to learn, adapt, and prepare for the next time around. For the son of an NBA player, that battle starts even earlier and hits even harder. Filling those shoes, few ever do. Some even outgrow them. But at 6'10", 245 pounds, Cameron Boozer, son of Carlos, looks built to break that trend, both physically and metaphorically. Cam has been in the spotlight since age 15 when he burst onto the scene with Knight Rider's Elite 15U, terrorizing his age group with a 6'9" frame and polished skill set rare for his age. He carried that dominance into high school, winning Gatorade National Player of the Year as a sophomore at Columbus, a feat few underclassmen have achieved. And he didn't stop there. Cam capped off his senior season with a second National Player of the Year award, led Columbus to another state title, and committed to Duke, cementing himself as one of the headliners of the NBA 2026 draft class. Now with the intro out of the way, let's talk some hoop. So what kind of player is Cam Boozer? And more importantly, will he live up to or even surpass the legacy that came before him? Let's dive into the film. I kinda hinted at it earlier, but the first thing that jumps out when watching Boozer is his impressive physical profile. Standing at 6'10", with a nice frame that's already begun to fill out, there are few players in his age range that can match his physicality. It was almost comical to watch his Knight Rider's Elite 15U tape as Boozer completely and utterly dominated his opposition physically. Specifically, two areas stood out immediately as significant strengths for Boozer: his offensive rebounding and transition game. On the offensive glass, he's able to use his height and solid frame to get and maintain position on the inside. Cam also gets off the floor crazy quick, which leads to situations where he's able to tip the ball or keep tipping it to himself multiple times until he can finish. At Knight Rider's 15U, 19.7% of the team's possessions ended in a Cam Boozer offensive rebound per synergy. That means in nearly 1 in 5 Knight Rider's possessions, Boozer was able to grab an offensive rebound, displaying pure dominance. He never reached those heights later in his high school and EYBL career as the competition developed physically, but it still remained a significant strength, and it should be a big part of his game at Duke. Cam consistently averaged 11 to 12 rebounds per game throughout his high school and EYBL career, and his defensive rebounding plays directly into one of his best traits, his transition game. A lot of modern bigs these days can grab and go, and Boozer fits that mold. Once he's in motion, he's tough to stop, whether it's taking it himself or making the right read as a passer. But what really stood out was his outlet passing. Cam keeps his head up and throws perfectly weighted hit-ahead passes that lead to easy layups. It's a skill you don't always see from bigs his age, and adds another layer to his already dangerous transition game. Between his ability to rebound, handle, pass, and finish in the open floor, he's a real problem in transition. One of the defining traits in Boozer's game is how efficient he is while maintaining a high level scoring output. Across both EYBL and high school, he maintained a true shooting percentage above 60, often hitting the high 60s and even cracking 70% true shooting at times. What sets him apart is his versatility. If one part of his scoring game isn't working, he can adjust and find another way to make an impact. One of these ways is through cutting. In many of his pre-high school seasons, cuts were a top 3 play type for him. Boozer is an extremely effective cutter, with soft hands, a large catch radius, and the strength to finish or draw fouls through contact. Combine that with his lob threat and he can punish defenses without even needing to dribble. This is what makes him such an intriguing prospect in my opinion. He has the makings of an elite play finishing big with great mobility, and that's before you even factor in his on-ball creation, which adds a whole new dimension to his upside. One of the more interesting trends in Boozer's game is how consistently his drive volume increased year over year. Early on, most of his attacks came off the catch, on short rolls, cuts, or spot-ups, but as time went on, he became more willing and able to put the ball on the floor himself. He still looks a bit stiff handling at times and doesn't always have the burst to blow by defenders, but his physicality, the foundation of his game, makes up for it. He's able to initiate contact, bump defenders off their spot, and either get to the line or create space to finish. And as his drive volume went up, so did his free throw rate, a natural byproduct of his physical playstyle. There's still room for growth here, especially as the athleticism of his competition ramps up. To stay effective, he'll need to combine that physicality with more craft and touch, something to watch closely at Duke next year. As a passer, Boozer shows most of what you'd hope for in a modern big. He's a quick processor, he sees the floor well, recognizes help rotations, and can figure out the next pass without hesitation. I wouldn't call him especially creative. Similar sized players like Paolo Banchero or Scotty Barnes flash more flair and improvisation at the same stage, especially off the dribble. But Boozer is efficient and smart, rarely making mistakes. Across high school and EYBL, he averaged 3.5 assists per game with a strong 1.39 assist to turnover ratio, which was solid for a big. One standout area was his outlet passing. We touched on it earlier, but it's worth emphasizing again. Boozer throws high-level hit-ahead passes in transition, often off a rebound. This is an extremely valuable skill to have as a big man. Transition is the most efficient phase of the game to score in, due to the defense not being set. The more players you can have that generate these opportunities, the more efficient offense you can produce on a regular basis. The next step for Cam will be expanding his passing vocabulary, adding more variety and deliveries, along with displaying some more passing manipulation. Boozer's shooting profile is quite promising, especially for a big man. He has compact mechanics and likes to shoot off the hop. It's a pretty clean jumper for the most part mechanics-wise. Early on in his high school career, he leaned a bit too forward when shooting, which caused some issues and lowered his accuracy. But as the years went by, he cleaned up his mechanics and his accuracy rose. He hit 38% of his 359 catch-and-shoot three-point attempts in high school plus EYBL. When you combine that with his 82% from the free throw line, 35.2% on dribble three-point shots, and 43% on dribble twos, you start to see how promising his shooting outlook really is. This is a guy who already displays elite interior play finishing, and it looks like he might be able to extend that out to the three-point line. Defensively, Boozer shows a lot of promise guarding on the perimeter. For his size, he can slide his feet pretty well and survive on switches against guards. He's still prone to getting beat and is a bit jumpy, but I like his potential in this area. He also has good hands, getting numerous deflections and steals due to his hands and awareness in the passing lanes. As a rim protector, however, I wanted to see more natural instincts from Cam. There were some moments of him protecting the rim, and his block numbers weren't that bad, but he seems more wired like a wing defensively. He also doesn't seem to have a really plus wingspan, which neuters his ability to really deter shots at a high level. This is the area I'm most going to keep my eye on at Duke. Cam's offensive skill set would be extremely potent at the 5, so him being able to hold up defensively at center would really boost his ceiling as a prospect. As Cam heads to Duke, the foundation of a great player is already in place. He's a dominant play finisher with a polished inside-out scoring game, excellent rebounding instincts, solid passing feel, and terrific transition tools for a modern big. But like any top prospect, the next leap will come from refinement and adaptability. There are a few areas I'll be watching closely next year at Duke. First, can he hold up defensively at the 5? If he can anchor a defense and consistently protect the rim, it unlocks a whole new tier of lineup flexibility and raises his long-term ceiling. Secondly, I'm excited to see how his on-ball creation continues to evolve. He's already made real strides as a driver, and if he can keep sharpening his handle, pacing, and finishing craft, he becomes that much harder to game plan for. And finally, I'm hoping to see more growth as a passer, especially in terms of manipulation and variety. The fundamentals are already really strong, but if he can add more passing deliveries, manipulate defenders, and become more creative in tight spaces, it'll round out his offensive package in a big way. The expectations for Cam Boozer have always been high, and rightfully so, but if his past is any indication, Cam isn't here just to meet expectations. He's here to redefine them. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Taco Takes if you want more basketball and NBA draft content.